Welcome to this lesson. So in this lesson we are going to be looking at grid items. Okay, so these are our major items. That is, everything inside a grid container is called a grid item. So header is a grid item, navigation is a grid item. That is every direct element inside a grid container. I already explained what direct elements are or what direct child elements are. So all of these direct child elements are called grid items. So for example, in this grid container there are 4 different grid items. Okay, so let's create some grid item in our container as well, so that we can play around with it and I can show you what each grid property is. Alright, so we're going to be creating 6 different div elements from 1 to 6. Let me copy and paste this 6 times. 4, 5, 6. That's it. Right, let me change the names. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. So let me also style these in a certain way. So I'm using a brackets editor, brackets.io editor. You can go for any editor you want. You could go for Sublime Text or just Notepad or Notepad++, anything you want. Alright. So right now I'm just using a normal editor. Okay, so we have a link to an external style sheet, so we're going to be using this particular style sheet. We already used all of these things. So let's see what we have so far. I'm going to be using the live preview of brackets in here. Live preview. There you go. This is all you have. You have 6 different divs with and all the text is displayed. So this is very ugly. So let's design it in some way so that we have proper boxes that we can align. Okay, so I'm calling the body first. So I'm not going to be explaining all of these things in detail because it's just basic CSS, and in order to take this course you need to know basics of CSS. So let me just give all the values in here. So the color of all the text is going to be white. The text align is going to be centered, and in the container the display is grid. We already covered all of that. So as I told you, the container is a website, right? So I'm going to be making its maximum width as 960 pixels so that it fits inside desktops and laptop screens. Alright, and I'm going to be aligning the container, that is a website, at the center of the screen by giving margin as 0 auto, and I'm also going to be giving it a border of 1 pixel solid black so that you can see where our container is. So if you see it here right now, this is what we have so far. Okay, right. Alright then. And you can't actually see the divs in here because we've given the color as white and the background is also white. So let's correct that. Let's call the container and the div. Okay, we're going to be giving it a padding of 30 pixels, and we're going to be giving all of our div elements borders of 1 pixel solid black so that you can see where it is. Right, great, perfect. So since we gave it a padding, all of the div elements actually increased in size, and as you can see we have 6 different div elements all stacked on top of each other. Alright, let's give each of our div elements a color, different color, so that it looks different from the other one. Okay, the first one is gonna have a background color of dark green. Now I'm gonna copy this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, I'm gonna make this red, and then I'm gonna make this as dark green. This is just my preference. You can give any color you want, obviously. I'm gonna make this orange, and then I'm gonna make this blue, deep pink, and what is this gonna be? So this is gonna be maybe brown. Alright, perfect. Okay, so now, okay, I didn't give this. 5, 6. Okay, perfect. Alright, so now we have 6 different div elements, each with a padding of 30 pixels, and as you can see here they have different colors, so they look kind of good. as you can see here, they are stacked on top of each other, and that could be fine. So this is going to be your website, right? So this is going to be a website. Each of these are going to be the elements inside your website. So right now they are stacked on top of each other, which is the default. So if you want to change it, you have to use the available grid properties. All right. I also want to talk to you about the display property. So I told you that the display grid property is what you're going to be using to make your element into a grid, make your container, that is the div container, whatever container you create, into a grid container. But this isn't the only display property you can give. By giving grid as the property, you're actually specifying that all the grid items, all of these items, are going to be block level items. That is, they're going to take up the entire width of the page. As you can see, they're taking up 960 pixels because that's the width of their parent element, that is the container. So this, okay. But instead of giving display as grid, you can actually give something else, okay. You can also make it inline grid, in which case it will make all the grid items, even if they are block items, like div items are block items. So even if they are block items, it's going to make all of them into inline items. So let me show you. Perfect. Do you see that? Do you see how the width is reduced? Because now they aren't block items, they're actually inline items. So it doesn't matter that the maximum width is actually 960 pixels. It's not going to take up that width because our grid container is now an inline element. Alright, so when it was a block element, it took up the maximum width of 960 pixels though, as you saw before, right? So this is the difference between grid and inline grid. So there is also another property called subgrid. This one. You won't see much difference in here because this is actually for nested grids. So I won't be using it right now because you won't see any difference as you saw right now, because it's used to specify that a particular grid is a subgrid. That is, it's a nested grid. It's a subgrid in a nested grid. In that case, this value indicates that our browser should apply all the properties of the parent grid to the child grid container. So right now, our container is the parent grid container. So even if you give it a subgrid, there isn't a parent grid from which it can take any properties. So it's better to just give grid right now. All right. But when we look at nested grids, I'll show you how subgrid works. So that's how you create grid containers and specify that they are grids. So right now, all the grid items are stacked on top of each other like this in the same order they were created. That is the default layout. But we can change this layout by specifying the number of columns or rows in our layout. As I told you, specifying the number of columns and rows together is what makes our CSS grid a two-dimensional layout system. So we can look at how to do all of that in the next few lessons. I'll see you there. Thank you.